Hey there, my spiky blue-haired supersonic speedsters! Today we're diving into the pixelated world of Sonic the Hedgehog, where breaking the sound barrier is just a casual Tuesday. Strap on your red sneakers because we're about to zoom through the history, mystery, and all the high-speed thrills that transformed a spiky blue-haired hedgehog into a gaming legend. And trust me, you'll want to stick around until the end, where we'll uncover how Sonic's iconic blue hue was almost, well, let's just say the color palette had some interesting options on the table. Get ready for a roller coaster ride through Green Hill Zone and beyond, because we're not just chasing rings today, we're chasing the untold stories that catapulted Sonic from zero to hero.
How are you not dead?
I have no idea!
Oh, give me a big fat threat!
In the late 1980s, the video game industry was dominated by the mustachioed plumber, courtesy of Nintendo. Sega, hungry for a slice of this pixelated pie, realized they needed more than just any mascot to compete. They needed a superstar. Enter the scene, a brainstorming session that sounds more like a zoo breakout than a corporate meeting. Among the contenders were an armadillo, a dog, and even a Theodore Roosevelt look-alike in pajamas, destined to become Dr. Eggman. But it was Naoto Oshima's Blue Hedgehog, inspired by Michael Jackson's boots and Santa Claus's color scheme, that ultimately stole the show. Why a hedgehog, you ask? Because its spikes presented an interesting way to deal with enemies and obstacles by rolling into them at high speeds. Yuji Naka, the programming genius behind the project, had a vision. A game that encapsulated the feeling of speed and freedom. This wasn't just about making a character move quickly, it was about redefining what a platform game could be. Naka's obsession with speed was so intense that he developed an algorithm allowing Sonic to smoothly accelerate from a jog to a supersonic sprint, a feat unheard of at the time. Meanwhile, Hirokazu Yasuhara joined as a level designer, bringing the trio's vision to life with levels that weren't just pathways, but racetracks that tested the limits of Sonic's speed. This quest for speed wasn't without its bumps. The development team, later known as Sonic Team, faced technical limitations of the Sega Genesis hardware. They had to innovate constantly, compressing data and optimizing code to make Sonic's world as vast and detailed as they envisioned. Another challenge was ensuring that Sonic's speed didn't result in players losing control and smashing into enemies or obstacles. This led to the introduction of rings, a brilliant mechanic that gave players a buffer against instant death, maintaining the game's fast pace. Controversy wasn't far behind, with internal disagreements over Sonic's attitude and appearance. The American Sega team pushed for a more edgy look to appeal to Western audiences, leading to adjustments in Sonic's design and character. This cultural tug-of-war was a testament to Sega's global ambition with their blue blur. But in the pantheon of video game characters, Sonic the Hedgehog is the epitome of 90s cool. His design was a masterstroke of simplicity and style. His blue color was chosen to match Sega's logo, while his red shoes, like I said, were inspired by both Michael Jackson boots and the color contrast that they offered. This wasn't just a character, this was a brand ambassador, designed to be as recognizable in silhouette as he was in full color. But who does a super fast hedgehog fight against? Enter Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman, depending on where in the world you're watching this. The quintessential mad scientist with a penchant for turning cute animals into mechanical monsters, the story was simple yet effective. Sonic zips through levels to thwart Robotnik's plans, freeing animals trapped inside robotic shells along the way. It's a classic tale of good versus evil, speed versus greed, a narrative that didn't need a complex cutscene to tell. It unfolded through gameplay. Supporting characters played their roles from the sidelines in his debut. While Tails, Knuckles, and others would become the mainstays in later titles, the original game kept the focus squarely on Sonic and Robotnik. This decision kept the game streamlined and allowed players to fully immerse themselves in the speed and spectacle of Sonic's world without distractions. The genius of Sonic's character and story wasn't just in their creation, but in how they complemented the game's mechanics. Sonic was all about speed, and the game's levels were designed as a playground for this velocity. The narrative didn't just motivate players to move forward, it justified the very mechanics at the heart of the game. Why is Sonic collecting rings? Why is he battling robotic enemies? Because he's on a mission to save his friends and stop Robotnik. Now at the heart of Sonic the Hedgehog lies its revolutionary gameplay mechanics, which not only defined the franchise but also set a new standard for platformers. Sega didn't just want to create a game where you move from left to right, they wanted to reinvent the wheel. Only this wheel was going at Mach 1. The cornerstone of Sonic's gameplay is, of course, speed. But it's not just about moving fast, it's about feeling fast. This distinction is crucial. Sega achieved this through the creation of levels that were as much about velocity as they were about design, incorporating ramps, loops, and springs that propelled Sonic at a dizzying speed, making players feel like they were breaking the sound barrier from their living rooms. But speed alone does not make a great game. The genius of Sonic's design lies within its rings. These golden halos served multiple purposes. They were collectibles, a health system, and a way to build tension. Lose your rings, and suddenly you're vulnerable, teetering on the edge of defeat. This created a gameplay loop that was exhilarating, rewarding, and punishing all at once. The rings weren't just there for show. They were an integral part of the Sonic experience, adding depth to what could have been a one-dimensional dash to the finish line. Then there's the level design. Oh, the level design. Green Hill Zone alone has become iconic, with its checkerboard hills and endless skies. But it's not just pretty scenery. Each level in the Sonic the Hedgehog is meticulously crafted to challenge the player, encouraging exploration and replayability. Hidden paths and secret areas reward the curious, while the main route offers a streamlined experience for those looking to speedrun their way to victory. This balance between exploration and efficiency was groundbreaking, offering different layers of gameplay depth that catered to various playstyles. And let's not forget about the enemies and bosses, each meticulously designed to test your mastery of Sonic's speed and agility. Dr. Robotnik's contraptions were not just obstacles, they were puzzles, requiring timing and strategy to overcome. This added layer of complexity to the game, ensuring that it was just a test of reflexes, but also of wit. And speaking of wit, if you enjoyed this supersonic dive into the Blue Blur's debut, why not hit that like button and subscribe? It's faster than Sonic on a good day and ensures you won't miss out on any future high-speed gaming history lessons. Plus, it's a great way to keep Dr. Robotnik at bay. Rumor has it he can't stand the sound of a notification bell. So when Sonic the Hedgehog hit the shelves in 1991, it didn't just run. It exploded into the cultural landscape with the force of 1,000 spin dashes. Sega needed a hit, and boy, did they get one. Sonic the Hedgehog didn't just sell well, it catapulted the Sega Genesis into a must-have territory, moving millions of units and becoming the console's best-selling game. It was the spearhead of a campaign that saw Sega's market share soar, challenging Nintendo's dominance in a way that no one had thought possible. Sonic did for Sega what Mario did for Nintendo, but with attitude that was all 90s. But it wasn't just sales figures that told the story of Sonic's impact. It was the cultural footprint it left behind. Sonic became a mascot not just for Sega, but for an entire generation. Merchandise, comics, and even cartoons sprung up, expanding Sonic's reach far and beyond the confines of the Genesis. Sonic became synonymous with speed, cool, and the rebellious spirit of the era, resonating with audiences worldwide. Now let's get to the fun facts that may not be as widely known as this game was played. First off, ever notice the constellation in the Starlight Zone? Look closely, and you might just see Sonic himself racing across the stars. It's a subtle nod that many players zoom past, but it encapsulates the game's charm and attention to detail. But perhaps the most intriguing piece of trivia involves Sonic's arch-nemesis, Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman for the purists. His distinctive egg-shaped design wasn't just a whimsical choice. It was inspired by none other than Humpty Dumpty. Yes, the villain trying to scramble Sonic's plans was based on the classic nursery rhyme character. It adds a layer of irony to Robotnik's character, considering all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. Yet Robotnik constantly rebuilds his mechanical army to take on Sonic. Now, as we come to a stop at the end of our supersonic journey through the history and secrets of Sonic the Hedgehog, it's clear that this blue blur did more than just run fast and collect rings. He zoomed into our hearts, leaving the trail of memories, innovations, and a few perplexing questions about hedgehog biology. So, as we bid adieu to Sonic for now, let's remember that in the great console race of life, it's not always about finishing first, but about doing it with style. A trail of golden rings, and maybe, just maybe, a catchy pop soundtrack to speed along to. And who knows, if you blink, you might miss the next adventure. Stay speedy, gamers. If you enjoy racing back through the history of the Hedgehog, click this video to see from the Retro Reload. And always, thank you for watching.